body high, and it's going to make your head high, very much.
So does anything make your body and your head high?
Well, I mean, I guess if you cross the strains, but...
There are many blends of those two different strains of marijuana to complicate the situation.
When you say your head high, what does that mean?
It just means, like, you know, you get creative and you want to go on new stuff. And, like, a body high is what you would want, like, right before you go to sleep.
Like
In
Noah's
most
vow.
basic terms.
Noah's vow.
Yeah.
So is that
I mean,
sober-minded? I guess is the question.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Well, I think it just boils down to one basic question is, what is the purpose? Why would God give us this herb to begin with? I guess we should start there and then kind of go out. What was his purpose for this plant?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, assuming that my premise is true, that God actually created all things for good, and obviously it's somebody who holds to what the Bible has to say, that's the line that I brought up with this.
Another question on that is, does what we have now equate to what was originally created? I mean, because of the fall, everything's been corrupted. And the original, what we have now may not represent the original creation.
Well, to answer your question about why it would be created, I mean, hemp is, widely regarded, before it was outlawed as a drug in this country, it was widely regarded as the best fiber for paper, for rope making, for clothing. The seed is highly nutritious to our bodies. And for that reason, I mean, it's arguably one of the most useful plants on our planet, just as far as its utility. And obviously using it as a drug is a whole other issue, and it is admittedly a different strain of the plant. There's a difference between hemp and the marijuana that's used as a drug. But they came from the same source. But I mean, another question I would ask is aside from the sober-minded part, I mean, what in our society has this perception that marijuana is bad. I mean, obviously, it was worthwhile to be classified as a Schedule I drug, completely banned for any use in our country, whether it be for the utilitarian uses like paper and rope, to the drug uses. I think it's outlawing in our country has a lot more reasons behind it than just that it's a drug that alters your state of mind. And I don't know what the reasons are. Probably not.
Well, historically, response to that.
I'll let you.
You're the history dude. Come on.
Well, I was just saying, like, historically, a lot of that, why marijuana was made legal in this country, part of it, and I'm not saying it's the entirety, but part of it was institutional racism. In World War I, they were looking for a lot of ways to get rid of migrant workers, and so they were looking for cultural facets that migrant workers participated in, specifically made legal.
It was based on racism. It was based on trying to get rid of migrant workers, Hispanics.
Yeah, Hispanics specifically. And another thing that I was just thinking about is this concept of sober-mindedness. Because it seems that, we have this idealized perception of sober-mindedness where we can be entirely rational and we can look at things as they are. But at the same time, it's not just intoxicants, it's not just alcohol or marijuana that can inhibit our rationality. I mean, at the same time, we could talk about, like, strange emotional states. We could talk about the strange, physiological states. I mean, what if a person is very, very hungry? Or what if a person is just very stressed or very tired? At the same time, that also inhibits your ability to be a rational person. So, this talk about sober-mindedness, I think at the same time should also take into account that, it's not as if we are always in the ability to make decisions rationally speaking at the same time. It's not just intoxicants, it's basic nature at the same time.
Well, there is an issue biblically in regards to intoxicants too. The word pharmakia, which is talking about drugs or witchcraft, and that may play some sort of role biblically in whether or not Christians have the liberty to do certain things. You want to speak up?
I would just respond to that, and I would say I totally agree. When you look at the use of sober-mindedness in the first century, when people talked about it, it was anything that, whether it was like sexual drive or hunger or things like that, it just like so altered somebody's state of mind that they began to be irrational. Like a man who cheats on his wife, might do so just because of a sexual desire, and that would be like not being sober-minded. So I agree entirely with what you're saying there. So that's a valid point. As far as pharmakia, in the New Testament, you see like in Galatians 20, they talk about these works of the flesh, and one of them that would prohibit you from entering the kingdom of God would be this word pharmakia, which is translated in a lot of versions sorcery. And basically, it really, sorcery is a good translation. It mostly is talking about condemning like heathen religions that use drugs to worship false gods or use drugs for magical or any type of idolatrous thing. So I don't think pharmakia is probably a good way to condemn the use of medical marijuana.
How about from a recreation?
Yeah. Just from like an exegetical, like a lexical perspective, I wouldn't use pharmakia to condemn use of marijuana, period. Or like, especially not medical uses.
That's a trait that if we start barking up, we have at work, we would have to condemn, at least this is what I understand, we'd have to condemn the use of all drugs in every circumstance.
Right. I wouldn't use, I don't think it would be a valid argument to use the condemnation of pharmakia to condemn marijuana as a medical or recreational use.
Is there any other reference? We know very well that it is stated in the Bible that it talks of wine, it talks about celebrating with wine at weddings and ceremonies. Is there any other reference to anything else that could be used to inhibit a person's mental state other than that drink? Because you talked about how all things are created for good. And we can look at anything from cough medication to prescription drugs to marijuana to all these different plants that have been abused in a way that is now considered a drug. Alcohol is kind of the only thing that has been stated as something that within limits can be okay.
Because you can tax. You sort of raise two different issues, and if I might comment on a couple of your issues. Traditional Christianity is unique relative to its religious tenets in the sense that in the book of Genesis, God creates the world in chapters 1 and in chapters 2. And in there is a verse that says, then God said, and now I give you every seed-bearing plant on the face of the entire earth and every tree that has fruit with seed in it, and they will be yours for food. There's also a verse that says that, and God saw that it was good. And this is often seized upon as a form of proof texting to try and justify the use of not only marijuana,